Hi everyone, welcome. It is Juliet here, and today we are going to be learning how to make this pendant, which I'm going to call the Entrance Pendant, which is kind of a little joke because it's also spelled the same as entrance, as in a doorway. So I'm calling it the Entrance Pendant because it reminds me of a door knocker, and it was made using materials. All these materials came in the Locked Away Beads collection, Lite from Eureka Crystal Beads, which sold out very, very quickly. However, all of these materials are either still available or available in a different color. You know, they're not like really rare materials. I believe these little charms links are still available. These are the Ornate Cross Collector, I can't speak, Ornate Cross Connectors that came in the collection, and they're so cute. We got 4 of them and I just love them. I just think it gives a nice little touch right here. But if you didn't have that, maybe you have another little connector, or maybe you could put a little string of beads or something, you know. There's ways to work around that bit of it. So you don't necessarily have to have this, but I think it does look really, really nice when you do have it. So, you know, it's up to you guys, but I just think it lends something to the design. So it does use quite a lot of different materials, because that's kind of how I roll these days. So let's start over here. So first of all, I am using some 6mm fire polish beads. These are the very pretty saturated metallic blue nebula that came. We got a whole strand of those, so that was in the collection. So you'll only need 4 of those, okay? And you're only going to need 4 of these as well. So these are Czech beads. These are called diamond. They're just called diamond beads. They're 2-hole beads. They are 6.5 by 4mm, and this color is called also saturated metallic blue nebula. So that's what these are. They're kind of little flat diamond beads with 2 holes in them, okay? You only need 4 of those as well. And then here I have some 3mm Druks. Again, these are in the saturated blue metallic nebula. We got a strand of those. If you don't have Druks, you could use just a round pearl 3mm. Any round 3mm bead will work, okay? Here I have some Miyuki drops. These are the galvanized gold, and these are the 2.8mm drops, so the smallest size that they have, okay? And you need, I didn't count these. You're gonna need 8, 9, 10, 11, I think 12 in total. You're gonna need 1 little connector, and like I said, if you don't have the connector, you could probably improvise, or maybe you have another little connector you want to use instead. Now this is kind of the star of the show here in the center. So this is a crystal octagon stone, 10 by 14. This color is called Deep Sea Blue. Isn't that gorgeous? I just love it. This is one of Eureka's Krakovsky crystal stones, which are so pretty. They're really nice, and they're not as expensive as the elite ones, but they are still incredibly gorgeous. Like, nobody's gonna know the difference, really. Okay, here we need 2 8mm chatons in sew-on settings. So these are the Montana blue, and they are just in little settings with 4 little holes around the side that you can use to sew them on. And then also you need 2 of those, whatever color you're using, okay? You're going to need 7 4mm rounds or pearls. We got this beautiful gold color, bronze pale gold. Nope, sorry, I'm telling you lies. This is the vintage gold, vintage gold, that 4mm, and you'll need 7, okay? Then this is a bead mix that we got that has 3 different sizes of beads. So you don't need the 8 O's, but you're gonna need some 11 O's and some 15 O's. And this is the silver-lined Capri Blue, okay? So I'm just gonna pick them out as I need them. I did not feel like separating them out, okay? I also have some 11O Delicas in the galvanized gold. And then here we have some bicones, 4mm. These are Preciosa. This is Malibu Blue. It's a really nice color. I love that color. And then I have another color of 11O rounds. So I have 11O rounds in blue and 11O rounds in this cream Ceylon color. Okay. These are both Miyuki, by the way, so which it might make a difference for things like the bezel and so forth. So if you can, try to use Miyuki for it, okay? For thread today, I am using 1G, which has kind of been my go-to for a little bit recently. This is the sand color, and I'm using a size 10 beading needle. Okay, you'll also obviously need some scissors and a beading mat of some kind in order to make this. Okay, I will get this set up and we'll get started. Okay, so to begin, you're going to add the following beads onto your thread, and you'll need about 4 feet of thread. Maybe just a few inches over 4 feet is what I got. Okay, so you're going to put on a 4mm pearl, 3mm Druk, 4mm pearl, then 2 seed beads, pearl, and 2 seed beads, and then again 4mm Druk, 4mm, and then 2 seed beads, pearl, and 2 seed beads. Okay, and you're going to go ahead and sew through all of those beads again in order to form it into a circle. Okay, and once you finish coming through the last 2 11 O's, you're going to sew through the very first pearl one more time. And that should then tighten up your circle. Just make sure you have enough tail that you can weave it in at the end, okay? All right, so the top and the bottom of our bezel are going to be these pearls that are in between our seed beads here, okay? So I'm coming out, and I'm kind of coming out on the side right here at the bottom. So you're going to pick up 5 of your 11O seed beads. So I'm going to use the blue for this because I'm next to this blue bead here, okay? So you're going to pick up 5. So I'm coming out. This is my short end right here. This is my working thread right here at the top, okay? I'm going in this direction. I'm going to enter into the other side of that pearl plus the 3mm and the next pearl, okay? And you're going to go ahead and pull that, and it's going to form a loop of 5 seed beads going around the pearl right here, okay? We're going to repeat that right here, so go ahead and pick up 5 more of your seed beads. You're going to again go through the pearl again, and then move forward through the next 2 seed beads and through the next pearl as well, okay? So I'm going through the pearl, the next 2 seed beads, and the next pearl. And when I pull again, it's going to form a loop around that pearl on the side there, okay? Here at the end, because I'm surrounded by my white 11Os, I'm going to pick up 5 white ones just to kind of make it little different. Okay, so we're going to pick up 5 of those. You're going to go through that seed bead and then through the pearl, through the 2 seed beads, and through the next pearl. Okay, so it's going to look like that. Okay, and then here on this side, we're going to do 5 blue ones and pass up to here, 5 blue ones, and then here 5 white ones. Okay, so just keep repeating, picking up your 5 seed beads and just continue forward through the next few beads. And here at our last pearl, we're again going to switch over to the cream colored Ceylon 11 seed beads. 5 again, and you're going to pass through that last pearl. Okay, so you should have something that kind of looks like this. You're going to pass forward through the first 2 seed beads and the first 3 seed beads on the first loop of 5. So you're going through the 2 in between and then the first 3. Here you're going to pick up a 15-0, a Druk, and a 15-0. Okay, and you're going to sew through the 3rd seed bead on this loop. So you're going to count 1, 2, 3, and you're going to go through that 3rd seed bead. Okay, here we have to add 11 O's because it's a little bit further to go. So picking up a blue 11-0, another Druk, and a blue 11-0. You're going to look at the 5 going over the top right here, and you're going to count 1, 2, 3, and you're going to go into that 3rd one. Okay, you're going to again pick up 11-0, Druk 11-0. One, 2, 3, go into the next 3rd bead. Here between the blues, we're picking up 15-0, Druk 15-0. So the 2 sides, we're picking up 15 O's instead of 11 O's. Okay, so 15-0, Druk 15-0. Again, 1, 2, 3, going into that 3rd bead there. And then here we have to do 2 more times with 11 O's. So you're going to pick up 11-0, Druk 11-0. Go into the middle cream colored bead and keep your tail up on the top for now because you don't want it to get buried. Okay, 1 more time, you're going to pick up an 11-0, a Druk, and another 11-0, and you're going to count 1, 2, 3, go into that 3rd bead. Just make sure that that tail is still on the top. Okay, all right, so we kind of have this at the moment, and you can flip it over to the back. You'll see we have a kind of ring of beads here. Okay, so it's looks like this. All right, so where our ivory beads are is the top and the bottom for our our octagon. So you're going to place it in there face down. It's going to sit in upside down like this. Okay, that's how it's going to go in. So you might want to just place it in just to make sure that you understand how it's going to sit in. So these, you should kind of have 3 druks on each side here, okay? So kind of the corners, the sides, and then the other corners, okay? You can go ahead and take it out for 1 second because the next step is probably going to mess it up a little bit. Okay, so we're currently coming out of an 11-0. Go ahead and move forward through the next seed bead and the Druk, okay? So you should be coming out from one of the middle Druks. All right, you're going to pick up 3 15-0s, 1 Delica, and 3 15-0s. Okay, so 3 15-0s, 1 11-0 Delica, and 3 15-0s. Okay, so once you've got those beads on your needle, you're going to look down here and then over 1. Okay, so this one right here, you're going to sew down into that Druk. Like this, okay? Then you're going to sew through these 3 beads, so an 15-0, sorry, it's an 11-0 blue, an 11-0 white, and another 11-0 blue, and then through the other bottom Druk. Okay, so you're just passing through those 3 at the base there. Okay, you're going to pick up 3 more 15-0s. And you're going to sew through the Delica in the middle here, going back over to the left-hand side. Okay. And you're going to pick up 3 more 15-0s. And you're going to sew through the middle Druk on the side like that we're heading towards. Sorry, I dropped it. Okay, so you're going to continue this line and go right into that middle Druk right there, okay? And you're going to give it all a good pull. You might need to pull your tail, but just try and get any slack out. Okay, now you're going to have to slip in your octagon at this point because we're almost closed up. So go ahead and stick him in there. And if you can't get in through the back, you may be able to slip him in to the front. So make sure he is sitting in there the right way up, okay? All right, so we're coming out from our middle Druk here. We're going to pick up 3 more 15-0s, 1 Delica, and 3 more 15-0s. Again, you're going to look across the way to this opposite Druk down here. You're going to go sew down into that Druk. And you can see that my octagon is popping up a little bit. It is kind of difficult to hold it when we're doing this bit. Okay, go ahead and move through those 3 beads at the end. So it should be 3 11-0s, okay? And through the opposite Druk there. Pick up your 3 15-0s. So back towards the left-hand side through the Delica. pick up 3 more 15 O's and sew up into the middle Druk. Okay, so you should kind of have something that looks like this. It still may be a little bit loose, so we're going to reinforce by sewing around all the blue beads. You're not going to sew into the white beads at the end. So go ahead and sew all the way around those side blue beads on the back here, all the way through, and just skip the white beads, okay? Okay, and when you get back to the middle, you'll know that you've made it all the way around, okay? So it should feel a little bit more sturdy. It shouldn't really feel like your stone is going to pop out at this point. If it is, maybe give your front tail a little pull, but it should feel like, you know, it's going to stay in there. I mean, it has a little bit of squish to it, but it still feels like it's held in, okay? All right, so I'm coming out from my side Druk, and I'm going to work my way up through the beads until I get up to the top here. Okay, we're going to, once you're up at the top, blue bead, you're going to go ahead and sew through your white beads and the next gold bead and the next 2 white beads as well. Then you're going to sew down the first 3 beads on the opposite side right here, okay, after the white area, okay. You're going to pick up a Druk, one of your chatons. Now, what you want to do is you want to see if there's one arm that you can get your needle through, kind of between the stone and the prongs. So I'm just checking. Okay, so that one I can get through quite easily. So I want that to be on the inside of my piece, okay? So that's the one, that's the direction that I need to sew through, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back out of that, holding that in place, and I'm going to sew through the 2 lower holes that are nearest to that prong. So I'm not sewing straight through it, I'm sewing kind of just through those ones. This is the prong that I can get through right above it right here, and I'm sewing through those 2 lower holes on the setting like this, okay? And then I'm going to pick up one more Druk, and I'm going to sew into the seed bead. If you look at the bottom here, there's 15O, Druk 15O. You're going to sew into the seed bead that's at the bottom of this V right here, okay? So like this. So this is just going to kind of hang out here on the side for right now, okay? Looks a little weird, but it's fine. Then we're going to again move on up through the next 2 seed beads. We're going to again sew through our cream and our pearl and our cream, and then we're going to sew forward through the next few cream beads, and then again we're going to sew down to this seed bead right here. So down through our first 3 seed beads, Okay. Again, we're picking up a Druk. We're checking to see which prong we can get through easily. So not that one. Okay, that one's pretty good. Yep, I think that's the one right there. Okay, so I have to sew into the holes next to that prong there. So I'm just going to sew straight through those two holes, and then I'm going to pick up another Druk, and I'm going to sew into that lower down seed bead that is after the 15-0 Druk 15-0. So that 11-0 that's kind of at the bottom of this. Okay, and then I'm going to sew up to the top right here. Okay, so we currently have this. We're going to sew all the way around until we get over to this gold seed bead right here. So sorry, I'm in the gold pearl right here. Okay, so once you're coming out from this pearl, you're going to pick up a Delica bead. You're going to sew through that prong area that we just checked, okay? If you need to, you can switch down to a lower needle, or if you really need to, you can even loosen the prong. Okay, so this is going to hold this in towards us like this, okay? You're going to pick up another Delica, and you're going to sew into the next gold bead. And just be very careful that your thread doesn't get caught on any of the other prongs. Okay, so this, you see how it's now kind of supported and it's not dropping down like this one here. Okay, so we kind of supported that on the side right there. Okay, you're going to pick up a crystal bicone. You're going to pick up 2 of your 6mm Czech faceted rounds and 1 more crystal bicone. You're going to sew into, so we're skipping over the top, and you're going to sew into the next pearl on the opposite side. Okay, so like this. And then we're going to repeat what we did on this side. So we're going to pick up a Delica, we're going to sew through that prong. And pick up 1 more Delica, sew through the next pearl. Okay, so those are now supported as well, and we're going to repeat this on the top here. So you're going to pick up a bicone, you're going to pick up 2 Czech beads and 1 more bicone, and you're going to sew into this gold pearl on the other side. Okay, and my tail has got a little buried here, so I just need to make sure that that gets up on the top. I do not want it to be buried down below. So if your tail has disappeared to the back, you're going to have to get it up to the top. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to tie that in later. Okay. All right. Okay, so it now looks like this. And your tail is up on the top. Okay. Okay, so coming out from that gold pearl, you're going to pick up a Miyuki drop. You're going to again sew through that prong area, and it can be a little bit difficult to see, and you may need to switch needles like I said earlier if you can't quite figure out how to get through there. Okay, and what you want is you want the drop to come up on top of the Delica that we added earlier. Okay, so just kind of force that drop up to the top, and you're going to pick up another one. And go into the next gold pearl. Okay, so your drops should sort of sit next to the pearls and around your blue Druk like this, okay? You're going to sew up through the bicone here. I can get into it. There we go. And through your 6mm. You're going to pick up one Delica, and you're going to sew through the next 6mm and bicone. Again, make sure you keep your tail, your starting tail up on the top, okay? Go ahead, sew through the next gold pearl. And then we're going to add our two drops just like we did on that side. So pick up one of your drops. That one's really fat. Okay, I'm trying to kind of just get the medium ones. Again, sew through that prong area. And again, force that drop up to the top, on top of your Delica, and then sew through the next pearl. Sew up through the bicone and the 6mm, and then you're going to pick up your connector. The nice thing about these is they don't have a top or a bottom. They're the same on both sides, okay? And then you're going to sew through and exit from the bicone. Okay, and that's just gonna dangle there for a minute, okay? Okay, so once you're coming out from your bicone, you're going to again sew through your 4mm pearl, the 3mm Druk, and the 4mm pearl. Okay, so that kind of finishes off that round, and it looks like this, okay? We're going to sew up through the first seed bead here. And you're going to pick up 5 Delicas. Okay, so 5 Delicas and 1 Miyuki drop. And here I like to use one of the more fat drops. Some of them have a thinner end than others. Like, let's compare these two. You see how here it's really thin? Sorry, see the difference there? This only has that much and this is that much, so I'm using like one of the fatter ones. Okay, I'm gonna sew through the Delica that's in between up here. Okay, you're gonna sew back through that drop. Okay, so sew back towards where you just came from. Make sure you pull that, and you're going to pick up 5 more Delicas. And you're going to sew into that first seed bead before the pearl. And just kind of make sure, you might need to pull your drop. Make sure that you have no slack and that is pulled like as tight as you can get it to be, okay? Again, keep that tail, your starting tail, up on the top there. Okay, so you should kind of have a little triangle shape like this, okay? Okay, so again, we're going to sew through the 3 beads on the side here, and it may be starting to get a little bit tricky to get through them, but you should still be able to do it. If you need to, you can step down a needle size. Okay, and then we're going to repeat the same thing on this end. So you're going to sew into that very first seed bead. Again, we're going to pick up 5 of our Delicas and 1 drop. And we're going to sew through the top of your little connector right here, okay? And then you're going to sew back through the drop. And then you're going to pick up 5 more Delicas. And you're going to sew into the last seed bead on this side. Okay, so we now have this, and we're exiting from this seed bead right here, okay? We're going to pick up 1 Delica, one of our little diamonds, okay, and 1 more Delica, which I just flung them across the room. Okay, so a Delica, a diamond, a Delica, and we're going to sew into this lower hole here on the setting, the same ones that we sewed through before. So we're going through these 2 holes here on the setting, okay? So go ahead and sew through there and pick up the same again. So a Delica, a diamond, and another Delica. And we're going to sew up into this bicone. Okay. Go ahead, sew through the Czech bead, through the Delica that's in between them there, okay? sew down again through the other side, the Czech bead, and through the bicone. And we're going to repeat on this side. So you're going to pick up Delica, a diamond, and a Delica. And again, we're sewing through the lower holes on the setting, just the same ones that we sewed through before right here, okay? And if this is where your tail is, just make sure that it does not get trapped, okay? And same thing, one more time, a Delica, a diamond, and another Delica. And you're going to sew up into the bicone right here. And again, I'm trying not to get my tail trapped in here, okay? And just make sure when you're doing all of this that you're not getting caught on any of the prongs on these two settings, okay? On the bottom side, so this is the bottom side with the thing here. If you're not there, you're gonna have to move over there. And I would probably just retrace the path that we just did, okay? All right, you're gonna pick up one drop. You're gonna pick up 7 of your cream colored seed beads. Okay, so 3, 1, 3, okay? So a drop, 7 seed beads, 1 Delica, 1 bicone, and 1 11-0 blue seed bead. Okay, so drop, 7, Delica, bicone, blue seed bead. We're going to sew through the lower hole on this setting. And actually I can just flip it back over now. Okay. All right, now we're going to pick up the reverse. So you're going to pick up 1 11-0, 1 4mm bicone, 1 Delica, 7 of your cream colored seed beads. Okay, so 7 seed beads. And lastly, 1 more drop. You're going to sew up into this bicone right here. Okay, so you now have this. Okay, so when we added these on, we were actually coming out from there, and now we are coming out from this bicone. So go ahead and sew through that Delica, the diamond, and the Delica that we added before. And then pass through the base and come right back up through the other side. Go up through this bicone at the top here. Pass up through the Czech bead and the Delica at the top. Come out from the Czech bead. Okay, so I'm coming out from this Czech bead here. We're going to pick up 1 of our 11-0s. Okay, we're going to pick up a Delica, we're picking up an 11-0. Let me move my tail. 11-0 and a Delica, and you're going to sew through the outside hole on the diamond, okay? Then we're going to pick up a Delica and 3 of our cream colored 11-0s and 1 Miyuki drop. You're going to sew through the outside holes of that setting. So the 2 outside holes, okay? So it looks like that. And then we're going to repeat on this side, but in reverse. So you're going to pick up a Miyuki drop and 3 ivory colored or cream colored seed beads and 1 Delica. You're going to sew through the outside hole of your diamond, and you're going to pick up another Delica and 1 cream seed bead, and you're going to go underneath all of this and you're going to sew through the Czech bead, okay? Make sure you're sewing underneath so your thread goes underneath everything else like this, okay? Go ahead, sew through the top of your connector, sew through the Czech bead, and again, just make sure you're coming out underneath everything else, okay? And we're going to do the same thing again. So you're going to pick up an ivory drop and a Delica. You're going to sew through the outer hole on the diamond bead, okay? Then you're going to pick up a Delica, 3 seed beads, and a drop. You're going to sew through the outside holes on the setting. You're going to reverse, so you're going to pick up a drop, 3 seed beads, and a Delica. And you're going to sew into the outside hole on the diamond. Okay. And then you're going to pick up a Delica and a cream seed bead. You're going to sew up into the Czech fire polish bead. Okay, and there is going to be, you may need to sort of just pull a little tight to get any little bit of slack that might be there, okay? Just kind of pull it a little tighter. All right, okay, so what we're gonna do now is I'm going to build my little top on. We still have one more bit to go, but since we're here, we're just gonna build our little herringbone top. So what I did here, I did 10 units, okay? So go ahead, go forward through the Delica, pick up 2 of your seed beads and sew forward through the Delica again. And they will sit like this. Okay, I'm going to turn this around because it's just a little easier without that drop blocking the view, okay? Then you're going to sew up through the first bead here. Going to pick up 2 seed beads, sew down this bead, and I like to again go through that Delica just to kind of get this first bit stable, okay? So actually I'm going to go separately, so go down through that Delica again. Okay, so you've got 2, and then go ahead and move up both of those. Okay, so we're going to keep adding pairs until we have a row of 10. So you're just going to pick up 2 beads, go down the first bead and go up its partner plus the one that you just added on that side. Okay, you're just going to keep doing that until you have 10. So just go down 1 and then you're going to go up 2 because you're going up the one that you've gone down plus the one that you just added. Okay, so you're always going down 1, up 2. Okay, so I now have 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so I'm going to sew through. I'm on the right hand side. I'm going to sew from right to left through the Delica, and this is going to bend over. Okay, and then I'm going to sew up and over all the beads on the left hand side. So just sew all the way through that entire loop of beads. And then I'm also going to sew around again through this same loop, the same left hand loop of beads, because I want to connect the front and the back beads together. So I'm just going to sew all the way over the top. And then sew through the Delica. And then I'm going to sew all the way around this one as well on this side. And when I get back to the bottom, I'm just going to sew through the Czech bead, okay? Because I'm still moving in this direction because we came out when we started all this from there. So, okay, so you should now have a loop, and depending on, you could either put a chain through here, or probably I'm going to have a necklace with like some pearls and whatnot on it. I haven't quite decided. Okay, so we have one more little bit to do right down here. So let's go through there. So go ahead and pass through the outer beads that we just added. So you're going to go through the cream, the Delica, the diamond, Delica, the 3 to the outside. Okay, so go through all of those. Again, go down through the setting. And here you're just going to pass through the drop and the first 3 cream colored beads. Okay. You're going to pick up 3 cream beads, 1 Delica, 3 cream, 1 Delica, and 3 more cream. Okay, so 3 Delica, 3 Delica, 3. Okay, you're going to sew into the Delica that is right before the bicone, and then also the bicone and the 11-0 and through the connector, okay? But I'm not going in, so I'm going through the Delica, the bicone, the seed bead, and the connector. Give that a pull, okay? You're gonna pick up 2 15-0s. Okay, so 2 15-0s, you're gonna pick up your last pearl, one of your cream colored 11-0s, push it down, skip the last 11-0 and go back through the pearl, only the pearl, okay? And if you need to, you can grab that 11-0 and kind of pull on it in order to tighten everything up, and then you're going to pick up 2 more 15-0s. You're going to go through the connector, the 11-0, the bicone, and the Delica. Okay, so that's the little bottom of our unit right there, okay? And then we're going to repeat what we did on this side. So you're going to pick up 3, a Delica, 3, Delica, and 3. Okay, so 3, Delica, 3, Delica, and 3. And you're going to sew straight through these 3 on the outside right here. Okay, and give it a pull. All right, so now your design is done. What you will need to do is tie in your ends. So you can either try and make your way back over to here, or you can tie it in somewhere else, or you can reinforce anything that you feel like might need reinforcing. I don't have a lot of thread left, unfortunately. I would probably like to do some reinforcing, so I'll probably have to add another little bit. But yes, you're basically done, and you can now tie in your threads, okay? So I'm gonna finish this off, and then I will come back. Okay, so I finished, and now I have 2. So maybe I'll use one on a chain, and maybe I'll use one on another necklace. So I will have to figure out what I'm gonna do with them, but I hope you try these. They look really, really nice, and they're actually really not that difficult, believe it or not. So this is the back. I kind of like the way the back looks too. It's sort of fun. But anyway, yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I'd love to see if anyone does this in different colors. I think that would be stunning, and I'd love to see that. So please, if you're not in Jules and Rose's Beading Buds on Facebook, go and join it. And if you do another color, please post it, because I'm so curious to see it. And the trouble is, I never have time to make more, you know, lots and lots of something and experiment, because I have to move on to the next video. So I will see you guys very soon. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.